Hi, everybody. I'm Rish, or Ambarish Mitra, founder and CEO of Blippar. And today I'm going to talk about reality and beyond, and I'm going to cover aspects of augmented reality and virtual reality, the two really big buzzwords you guys hear about a lot. So one of the key points to note here before I move forward, I want to differentiate the two concepts because a lot of people use these two concepts interchangeably, but there is a difference, at least at this stage where we are in the technology life cycle. Virtual reality almost has nothing to do with immediate reality, what you see with your eyes. If you could be in this room and you want to transport yourself to walking in Venice or walking in Sahara or a different environment, it's almost escaping from reality. So you go to a virtual environment. Augmented reality is about enhancing reality. So the real world is really, really relevant, what you see with your eyes, and it's right in front of you, and something needs to trigger from what's in front of you. And that's why the word literally means augmentation of reality. And of course, there's an era of mixed reality coming on, and where these two are going to blend, and we're not totally there yet, but some very interesting players are coming in the picture. So what Blippar is trying to build, for those of you who don't know us in the room, we have this vision that we want to index the whole physical world. And some people have almost criticized us for it, like, why do you want to do it? And initially in our journey, we were classic augmented reality platform where we would look at images and things would trigger from it. We realized that for augmented reality to scale, reality is very important. So today you can augment one object, two objects at a time, but if you really see augmented reality as a worldwide momentum, computers need to understand reality. And this will become very evident when I go into the demonstration mode. But if computers don't understand what a chair is, or what an apple is, or what a dog is, or what a spacecraft is, or what a flower in your garden is, content creators, developers won't be able to really create content on top of it. So hence, you would have seen several examples. Those of you who know more about augmented reality, the technology has been around for over 10 years, but we are entering an era where artificial intelligence and augmented reality combined together will play a very, very important role. And this is a natural evolution, and do not treat augmented reality as something very innovative, something really cool. It would become one of the most dominant part of how people access information. And it has a very high correlation to how humans itself have evolved. And these are just evolution steps which explain when R&D in these eras started. So if you remember, 1995 to 2000, it was the phones. When mobility came into our lives, it was all about texting and calling. And soon, computing fundamentally changed, and all the thinkers in the world, including people like Steve Jobs, important point came into our lives that computing doesn't need to have friction. You know, like just typing on the keyboard is a behavior that exists, but it's still a awkward behavior. Computing needs to align with how humans are naturally built. Hence, touch-based computing came into the scenario in mid-2000, and phones and devices and screens went into a touch mode, because it's natural for humans to touch. Then came the evolution of Siri, Cortana, and now very dominantly Alexa, which is more natural language translation, where it's conversational, it's hearing-based. If you look at the brain utilization of touch versus hearing, the biggest challenge we have ahead of us, 42% of our brain is used by our optic nerve. And equally, in the world of computers, computer vision still is a very challenging environment. It's getting there, But for AR, VR to really, really go mainstream as a part of ambient, to be around us everywhere, computer vision needs to almost understand things as good as how humans understand with our eyes, processing 19 million things per second. And that's the next challenge, which of course we are working on and several other companies are working on it, is not to be ignored, but that era has started. We will reach a time pretty soon where you can literally look at anything and those things will talk back to you and you can have a conversation with it. And our lives just won't be revolving around devices or one particular device at a time. And several industry leaders are massively betting on it as well. Very recently, you guys heard Mark Zuckerberg talking about Facebook's massive investment in augmented reality. Tim Cook as well. Apple hasn't been quiet on this topic. For last 1 year, they're dropping a lot of signals that they're taking AR as a next computing medium very seriously. And it's going to be a very natural move. So why 2017, all these leaders, all big thinkers are coming onto it now more than ever before? Because there are fundamentally changes happening in computing itself. And both hardware and software and cloud has a big role to play before any technology movement converges. So of course, processing speeds, deep learning, enhancement of deep learning, quality of cameras and pictures itself improving massively. And on the visual side, technologies like SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping, coming into play. Advanced 3D rendering, and like how can you take a very complex 3D model and make it portable into phones and in glasses? All these miniaturization of very otherwise things which you've seen in movies like Pixar, but how can it work on your phone? There's huge advancements in these era. And one last thing I want to talk about before I move into a more demo mode is augmented reality will have two different strands of technology which are moving forward right now, and they haven't also collided. One is the semantic classification, which is understanding the world as you see it, like chair, table, speakers, lights, audience, a classification of the world. And another side is geometry side, which is more about how can you place things in the real world, which is aspects of Tango or HoloLens, those guys are working on, where you understand spatial understanding, where can I locate a piece of content exactly somewhere there or in a particular location and where all planes and surfaces are. And at this stage, these two strands haven't collided, but we anticipate something like this happening in next 1 year. So I've been talking about a lot of things which sounds very theoretical, but let me give you a bit of a demo to make you understand certain different examples and strands, how this is evolving. So if we could move on to the demo mode, please. So what you're seeing on my phone, I'm going to switch on this application called Blippar Beta. And immediately what's happening, and just so you know, everything I'm doing is live on a 3G, 4G connection. And this is the world's first real-time AI, visual AI engine. Anything it looks at on your phone, it'll start describing it. Almost like a child, I think like a 6 to 8 year old, and it classifies everything that you're looking at. So right now it says energy, business, I don't know, it's a laptop somewhere, and there's an aspect of lens flare because there's a lot of light which it's seeing, and panoramic, and it somehow, it's believing what it's seeing through the camera, but if I go like really specific, the words would change. immediately, and it'll start saying group, recreation, conference, performance, and again, if I pointed at it, the words would change into flat panel, monitor, gadget, TV. My environment here is very restrictive, so I cannot demonstrate the whole world to you, but if you try using it on pretty much anything in the world, 70 to 80% of it should be able to classify, including fish market, Gothic cathedral, jazz bar. Like point it at anything, and it'll be able to explain it to you on a generic level. This is a demonstration of the semantic computer vision AI, which it's a classifier. It's a machine with a vocabulary of 33,000 words, and it can describe almost like a human being most things it sees in real time. So what happens to it? What happens to it when you point more specific things to it? So in this case, I couldn't bring a real car here, so I brought some pictures, but it'll work on a real car on the street. So if I point it at this particular vehicle, it says 2013 to 17 Ford Fusion. That's very precise. You know, even the human cannot precisely guess which year a car is just by looking at it. And this is just not me saying for the sake of words. You should try it on any vehicle in America. Point it out. In 100 milliseconds, it'll tell you not just about the car, but every other detail associated with it. So let's see what appears over here. I'm having a bit of a slow connection, but bear with me. It'll say customer reviews, expert reviews, look inside. So if you press look inside, you'll notice it's loading again, sorry. It's not meant to be. So what does the Ford Fusion look like? So I'm literally now walking around. It's a gyro-based technology. You can look in interiors of any given car in the US market. So these are just examples how use cases of how people would use it. So I'm going to come out of it and again point at another given vehicle, and it should be able to recognize that. And one thing you will find slightly fascinating, it's a Cadillac CD6, that it will work better off real things than in images, which is more useful. I mean, what I don't want you to go away thinking that this is something we pre-programmed just for the demonstration purposes here. Actually, the speed and the recognition is way more accurate when you use it in the real car, in the real world, because images of cars are heavily manicured and photoshopped, and it works way more better in the real world than all filters and Photoshop aspects applied. So I'll show you some examples of augmentation. So this is something we did with Snoop Dogg on T-shirts and things like that, where you point the same phone on, sorry, it's a bit unstable here. You point the same phone at this particular image of the Snoop Dogg album, and it transforms. And all these things, you can code it by yourself. For developers in the room, there's a whole SDK. You can program anything in the physical world, from images to objects, and create a lot of special effects. And you can take a selfie with Snoop, and I mean, I have to, I guess, reverse the camera. So if I'm in the room, I can take a picture with him, and we're like hanging out together here. So yeah, Snoop says hello, and that's just a simple demonstration. I want to show you something very different and never been ever demonstrated before to any audience live. Is a big part of the world is people. This is not on just fruits and trees and cars. Humans are also part of the world. So if you point this program on top of at this stage, any public figure in real life, on TV, on print, bus stop, doesn't matter. Same rule as the car. It's not just image-based, but I couldn't bring celebrities with me on stage, so I have to rely on imagery. And again, this is not pre-programmed, so I bought this week's edition of Hello magazine, and then you start pointing, And it should, again, recognize everybody you point at specifically, whether it's big or small. So we exactly know who that is. And let's see if it picks up. It's a much smaller image. But again, it'll be much faster. Keep in mind the connections slightly slower over here. But if again, I'm just going to go through almost every person in this magazine. I don't know, coincidentally, I keep coming across the British royal family in this magazine. Nothing to do with this morning's news. That's the British Prime Minister, Theresa May. And I have another brochure I picked up from one of the stands outside. It had few other famous people, so let's start with this guy over here, in case you don't know who that is. Also picked up on his tie knot, which is a Windsor knot. And that's Cher, Kobe Bryant, and this is also a 100-millisecond engine. Everything's happening literally real time, and you're seeing the response rate. It's not restrictive to images at all. So again, if you have famous friends, so I'll put it on myself just to show you how fast and real it is. So it should have recognized me already. And again, anything you need to know about me, it would appear, story of my life and kind of stuff like that. So that's face. And today we have landmarks, face, cars, random objects, nature, and you can get very wiki-style factual information from it, or developers can augment it and create fascinating experiences on top of it. That's all I have to show today. Thank you very much.